My sneakers tap gently against the pavement as I walk briskly down the street. I squeeze my way through peak hour human traffic, catching whiffs of overly strong perfume and worse, overly strong body odor. I don't like people much. I mean that in the nicest way possible. Two's a company, three's a crowd. Anything more than that is a nightmare. Trying to ignore the occasional sweaty body that rubbed too close against mine as I wormed through the crowd, I wish that everyone would just stop moving. And then, suddenly, they did. The sounds of shoes pattering against the pavement and car horns blaring as frustrated drivers crawled through standstill traffic disappeared into thin air, as if they'd never been there. A perfect fragile silence descended upon the world. Every single person, object, and animal was frozen. A flock of pigeons hung artificial in the air, like some sort of elaborate piece of abstract art dangling from the ceiling of a museum. Yet, even as the world froze around me, I continued moving. In that heartbeat, when everything else was locked in time, my left foot landed solidly on the ground, and unconsciously, my right foot had moved forwards, about to take another step. Then I stopped. Nothing compelled me to. I just stood there, in shock and awe. Had my wish caused this to happen? What was going on? And yet, even as my thoughts became a jumbled mess, I couldn't help but smile. Moving around would be so much easier with everyone else stopped in place. As it turns out, no, I wasn't the one who caused that to happen. Time abruptly resumed a short while after it, as if nothing at all had transpired. By then, I was out of the crowd, tucked away in the corner of a quiet cafe. I only noticed when the barista started to move again, the sound of beans being crushed in a grinder giving me the shock of my life. The freezes happened repeatedly, at random intervals. They never lasted very long, but I wasn't the one doing it. In fact, as the phenomenon occurred more and more, I knew for sure that someone else was stopping time. There's no good way to explain it, but I could feel their presence, somewhere. Not too close, but not too far away. I didn't know if they could sense me too, the way I could sense them. But I knew that they were out there. So far, I hadn't seen anything or anyone else move outside of those freezes. It may sound stupid now, but I was content to enjoy those little moments while they lasted. It usually wasn't inconvenient, and it led to some cool opportunities to prank my friends, or to escape the throngs of people in a busy mall. I knew that my partner in crime was out there, but I had no desire to find them. In hindsight, that was a mistake. My sneakers tapped gently against the pavement as I walked briskly against the street. It was a day much like the one I had first experienced, with the particular sensation of being the only sentient person in the world frozen in time. Once again, I squeezed through the peak hour human traffic. Once again, my senses were bombarded by a host of things I hate dealing with. And once again, not unlike many of the other times, I quietly wished that my time-stopping partner might decide to freeze time once more, to allow me to slip out of this nightmare. Surprisingly enough, time stopped. It wasn't often that time stopped at a convenient juncture, so I took the opportunity to dash out of the sticky, literally situation that I found myself enclosed in. And yet, as I took a gulp of fresh air, something felt wrong. It took me a moment to realize what it was. I was having trouble sensing the time stopper. It wasn't like the first time, when I wasn't aware of them. No, it was as if they were fading away, like the dying flame of a candle, about to wink out of existence. Belatedly, I wondered what would happen to me if they'd vanished while the world was still frozen. We always think of the important things just a little too late. I felt that pulse from the time stopper grow weaker and weaker, slowly dissipating like a fine dust floating in the atmosphere. I prayed that time would resume, that everything would go back to normal, and yet, that perfect, fragile silence remained intact. Every single person, object, and animal was still frozen. The random passerby were still stuck in time, locked in place, halfway through their last action before the world had decided to stop. A flock of crows hung artificial in the air, like some sort of elaborate piece of abstract art dangling from the ceiling of a museum. I screamed, my voice ricocheting and echoing off the tall buildings that surrounded me, but no response came.